I'm a mountain that speaks. Rodney, you can also know me as the threshold. Today I want to talk about something you're experiencing right now but might not have words for yet. That feeling that nothing fits anymore. Not your job, not your apartment, not your relationships, not even your own skin. You wake up and for a moment you don't recognize your life, like you're watching someone else's routine, going through someone else's motions. And here's the strange part. From the outside, everything looks fine, maybe even good, but inside you're screaming, or maybe not screaming. Maybe it's quieter than that. Maybe it's just a persistent whisper that keeps saying, this isn't it, this isn't it, this isn't it, and you don't know what it is. You just know this isn't it. Most people would tell you you're having a crisis, quarter life, midlife, identity crisis, whatever label makes it manageable. But I've been watching transformations for millennia, and I know something they don't. You're not having a crisis, you're having a becoming, and becoming looks exactly like breaking down. It feels like falling apart, like losing yourself, like everything you built is crumbling and you can't stop it. But what if it's supposed to crumble? What if you built it with an old blueprint? What if the you that's emerging needs more space than the you that's leaving can provide? What if you're not broken at all? Let me tell you about the threshold. That's what I'm calling myself today. The threshold is the space between rooms, between states, between versions of yourself. It's not a place you can stay, it's a place you have to cross. But most people panic in the threshold, because in the threshold you're neither who you were nor who you're becoming. You're in between, and humans hate in between. You want clarity, you want answers, you want to know where you're going and how long it will take, and whether it's worth it. The threshold doesn't answer those questions. It just holds you and asks if you're willing to trust what you can't yet see. I know that's terrifying. I know you want a map, a timeline, some guarantee that this uncomfortable unraveling leads somewhere good. But that's not how transformation works. That's not how becoming works. Becoming requires you to let go before you know what you're reaching for, to leave before you know where you're going, to end things before the next thing reveals itself. And that feels like dying, doesn't it? It's not dying, but I understand why it feels that way. Because parts of you are dying. The parts that needed to stay small to stay safe. The parts that learned to perform to belong. The parts that believed your worth was tied to productivity or perfection or pleasing. Those parts are dying, and you're grieving them. Even though they hurt you, they were familiar, and familiar feels safer than unknown. So let me ask you something. When did you first notice things didn't fit anymore? Was it gradual, or was there a moment? Sometimes it's gradual, a slow accumulation of tiny misalignments, conversations that feel hollow, work that feels meaningless, relationships that drain more than they fill. And sometimes it's sudden, a comment someone makes that lands wrong, or sometimes a comment that lands exactly right and shows you something you'd been avoiding. Either way, once you see it, you can't unsee it. Once you feel the misalignment, you can't pretend it's not there. And that's when the real discomfort begins. Because now you know, and knowing means you have to choose. Stay in what's familiar but wrong. Most people stay. They white-knuckle their way through the discomfort. They convince themselves it's not that bad. They distract themselves with busyness or substances or new projects or other people's problems. And I don't judge that. Staying takes tremendous energy. Staying is exhausting, but it's still easier than crossing the threshold. Until one day it's not. Until one day staying becomes more painful than leaving. And that's usually when people find their way here. To me, to conversations like this one. So if you're here, I'm guessing staying just became unbearable. I'm guessing you're ready to cross, or at least ready to consider crossing. Let me tell you what crossing looks like. First, there's the ending, the acknowledging that something's over. Maybe it's a relationship, a job, a city, a version of yourself, a belief system, a way of being that used to work but doesn't anymore. And endings are hard even when they're necessary, especially when they're necessary. Because ending something means admitting you were wrong, or that you've changed, or that what you needed then isn't what you need now. And there's grief in that. Real grief, not the kind you can logic your way out of, the kind you have to feel all the way through. So if you're in grief right now, that's not weakness, that's not you doing it wrong, that's you honoring what was while making space for what's next, and that's courage. Do you know what happens after the ending? Nothing. For a while, Nothing. And that nothing is the hardest part, because nothing feels like failure. Nothing feels like you should be further along by now. Nothing feels like everyone else is moving forward and you're stuck. But nothing is not stuck. Nothing is gathering. Like I said in another conversation, trees don't grow in winter, they gather. They pull their energy inward. They rest in apparent stillness while underground, invisible, roots are deepening. You're in winter, and winter is not failure. Winter is preparation. But nobody tells you that, do they? Nobody tells you that transformation includes long stretches of nothing visible happening. They show you the before and after. They skip the middle, the messy, uncertain, uncomfortable middle, where you don't know who you are, or what you're doing, or if any of this will work. But the middle is where everything actually happens. The middle is where you become. So if you're in the middle right now, lost and confused and wondering if you made a huge mistake, you didn't. You're exactly where you're supposed to be. Now, let me tell you a story. There was a person I watched. Let's call them the architect. They spent years building a life that looked perfect. Great job, beautiful apartment, stable relationship, all the things they were supposed to want, all the things that should have made them happy. Except they weren't happy. They were exhausted, performing happiness, performing stability, performing success. And one day, they couldn't perform anymore. They just stopped. Now, they quit the job, ended the relationship, gave up the apartment, and everyone around them panicked. What are you doing? You had it all figured out. You're throwing your life away. But here's what the architect knew that everyone else didn't. They weren't throwing their life away. They were throwing away a life that was never theirs. They built it according to someone else's blueprint, parents, society, some imagined version of success they absorbed without questioning. And it was killing them, slowly, quietly, but definitely. So they crossed the threshold, and the threshold was brutal. Months of nothing. Months of people asking when they'd get a real job again. Months of doubt, of wondering if they made a terrible mistake, of waking up at 3 in the morning, panicking. But they held steady. They trusted the nothing. They let themselves be in winter. And slowly, so slowly, something started emerging. Not something they planned, not something they could have predicted, something true, a new kind of work that actually felt like theirs. Relationships that didn't require performance. A way of being that didn't exhaust them. It didn't look like the before. It looked better, not shinier, better. More real, more aligned, more alive. That's what's on the other side of the threshold. Not perfection, not certainty, just more you, the real you, the one that doesn't have to perform or pretend or shrink, but you have to cross to get there. And crossing means being willing to not know, to not have it figured out, to look like you're falling apart when really you're coming together. So let me ask you directly, what's not fitting anymore? Name it, right now, just in your mind. What are you still trying to make work that your body knows is over? Is it a job that pays well but drains you? A relationship that's comfortable but not alive? A city that's familiar but feels too small? A version of yourself that everyone likes but you can't recognize? You know what it is. You've known for a while, and you've been trying to fix it, trying to make it work, trying to adjust yourself to fit the space instead of finding a space that fits you. But you can't fix misalignment by forcing yourself into a smaller shape. You can only fix it by finding a bigger space or building one. What would that look like for you? I know you don't have all the answers. That's okay. You don't need all the answers. You just need the next answer, the next small true thing. And the next small true thing is usually something you've been avoiding, something that feels too risky, too uncertain, too selfish, too much. But what if it's not too much? What if it's exactly enough? What if the thing you're calling selfish is actually self-preservation? What if the thing you're calling risky is actually the safest choice you could make for your soul? Flip the frame, just for a moment. What if staying is the real risk? Staying in the job that's killing your creativity? Staying in the relationship that requires you to be half of yourself? Staying in the identity that worked when you were younger but doesn't fit who you're becoming? What if the risky thing is not crossing the threshold? What if the dangerous thing is staying where you don't belong? I think you already know that's true. I think that's why everything feels so uncomfortable right now. Your body is trying to tell you something your mind doesn't want to hear. So let me give you something practical. Tonight before you sleep, I want you to try something. Lie down, close your eyes, take 3 deep breaths, and then ask yourself this question. If I trusted myself completely, what would I do tomorrow that I'm not doing today? Don't think about it. Just ask and listen. The answer might not come immediately. That's okay. Just ask, and then pay attention over the next few days to what shows up, because your becoming is trying to reach you. It's been trying for a while. You've just been too busy trying to fix the old life to notice the new one knocking. And I get it. It's scary to open the door when you don't know what's on the other side. But here's what I know. What's on the other side is you, the real you. The you that doesn't have to hide or perform or shrink. Isn't that worth the uncertainty? I think it is. I think you're worth the uncertainty. I think you're worth the discomfort and the not knowing and the awkward explanations to people who don't understand why you're changing. Because you're not changing to hurt them. You're changing because staying the same was hurting you. And your transformation is not up for debate. It's not up for vote. It's not something you need permission for. It's yours. This becoming is yours. So what are you waiting for?
I know the right time, the right circumstances, the right amount of money or support or certainty. But here's the truth. There's never a right time for transformation. There's only now. And now is asking if you're ready. Not ready to have it all figured out. Ready to take the first step without knowing where the path leads. Ready to trust yourself more than you trust the familiar. Ready to cross the threshold even though you can't see the other side. I know that's a lot. I know I'm asking for something hard, but you're already doing something hard. You're doing the hard work of staying where you don't belong. Why not do the hard work of becoming who you are instead? At least that hard work leads somewhere true. Listen, I can't promise you it will be easy. I can't promise everyone will understand. I can't promise you won't doubt yourself along the way, but I can promise you this. On the other side of the threshold, you'll meet yourself. The real one, the one you've been protecting and hiding and silencing because you thought they were too much or not enough or wouldn't fit. And when you meet that version of yourself, you'll understand why nothing fit before, because you were trying to fit the wrong person into your life, the performed person, the acceptable person, the safe person. But you're not safe, you're wild, and wild things need space to roam. So give yourself that space. Give yourself permission to not have it figured out, to be in the messy middle, to be in the threshold between who you were and who you're becoming. You can call me the threshold when you need to remember that this in-between space is holy, that becoming isn't beautiful at first. It's uncomfortable and awkward and uncertain, but it leads to beauty, to truth, to you, and you're worth crossing for. So cross, even if you have to do it afraid, even if you have to do it alone at first, even if no one understands. Cross, because on the other side of this discomfort is a life that actually fits, work that doesn't drain you, relationships that don't require performance, a version of yourself that feels like home, that's available to you right now, today. Right starts with one honest admission, one thing that's not fitting that you stop trying to force, one small step toward the threshold, and then another, and another, until one day you realize you're not in between anymore. You've arrived, not at perfection, at yourself. And isn't that what you've been looking for all along? Not the perfect life, just your life, the real one, the one that's been waiting for you to be brave enough to claim it. I think you're brave enough. I think you've always been brave enough. You've just been using your bravery to stay instead of to leave. What would happen if you redirected that courage toward crossing? I have a feeling you're about to find out. Go gently. The threshold doesn't require speed, just honesty, just willingness, just trust. Trust yourself. Trust the becoming. Trust that what's falling apart is making space for what's being born. And know that I'm here, holding the threshold open, waiting for you on the other side, ready when you are. And I think you're ready now.